Howdy y'all, welcome to JsGrassFedGarden. I got a new farm truck. It's new to me and it's gonna help me gather materials for this farm. Now I don't have to load up the back of my Subaru with 5-gallon buckets of water or apples. I can fill up the back of this truck. It's got the nice handy dandy hitch, and we'll be towing the farm stand trailer up that way to a different entrance on the farm. That's where the produce is going to be distributed to the community. And yeah, so let's just do a little quick update real quick. February 1st, got a little snow here and there. Nothing substantial. Every time we get a snow, it's nothing more than an inch, and then it all melts away. But I'm out here today because it's like 38 degrees Fahrenheit, so pretty mild. For February, we're supposed to drop back down into the teens. Later in the week, 30s and teens for the rest of the week. No snow in the forecast for the rest of the week. And so I'm out here today, still trying to cover up these last little 2 patches with grass, wood chips, or leaves. But the leaves and the wood chips are frozen. And I was trying to get the rest of this pasture mowed with the scythe before it became winter. But time just didn't allow for that. One quick thing I want to show. There's these ruts right here. You can see right where I put my foot. They go that way. And that's how you could tell that when this field was bush hogged, that he came this way, back and forth. And those ruts will take a long time to go away. So just a quick note, it's one of the reasons why heavy machinery can be very damaging to the land. So now all of this not being tilled, organic matter stacked on top, we're gonna have to undo some of that compaction over time, and it's gonna take time. And I'm also hypothesizing there's gonna be a lot of nutrient lockup because of how much carbon, aka wood chips, that have been put into this new plot. And when you have an extreme amount of carbon, it can lock up your nutrients, and that's why we're gonna have to sow a good amount of legumes, aka beans or peas, and that will help to, the nitrogen will release some of the nutrients and equal out that nitrogen to carbon ratio. But anyways, so I was trying to get the rest of this scythe before winter. Didn't happen. Right where all this snow is, I scythed the other day, and then I just scythed this patch right here. There's not as much biomass in the winter because it's all biodegrading and been stepped on, but you can see I just did this nice little patch right here. Obviously scything in the wintertime is not ideal. The ground's a little frozen and your hands get cold, but I'm just out here trying to be productive. And if I don't cut all this, then when it tries to regrow in the spring, it's just that much harder for it to mow, because I'm trying to mow this dead stuff and then the new growth trying to grow through that. So that's why I mowed this all down. It looked like that. Mowed this all down. Now in the springtime when it regrows, we'll get that fresh new regrowth with and it'll be way easier to mow, and then it'll allow it to grow up 3 or 4 more times equally of the same nutritional density. So yep, I stopped like a quarter of a way, didn't even make it like halfway, but that's okay for a winter scythe sesh. I'll get this moved, over to those 2 rows that I showed I'm still trying to cover. And let's head over to the greenhouse, high tunnel, cold house. It's all 3 of those things. And get some updates on this. Oh, also real quick, there was some more flooding in the driveway. I can link to that video here, but I've made some more indentations with the shovel in the driveway, and I think that that's really going to help the drainage better and continue to help it from eroding more when we get excessive flooding events. So still got that hole up there in the top, and it's just been too cold. Luckily it just popped out of the 45 degree angle bracket or connector, and I just got to pop that back in. It poked a hole through the greenhouse plastic, which pissed me off a little bit, but I'm over it. And so once it warms up, I can sink that back in and maybe sink a screw through that so that doesn't happen again. And there's the one other hole that I've showed, but showed again just because we're doing February updates and maybe not everybody watches all those videos, but another hole up there. So we got 2 holes in the top. It's not ideal, but once things really start to warm up, that's actually going to play in my favor because there's not the best ventilation on this. So once it's like 80, or we don't really get up to 80 that much, but once it's up to like 70, we're going to want a little holes for hot air to escape, and there's not going to be any fans in here. So updates, still got pear and apple pulp that I didn't get to. Hopefully we'll definitely get to it in the spring. Just have to find a place to spread it out, and we'll have some apple and pear seedlings, whether for growing out or rootstock grafting. And then we got some red oak acorns that I collected, some in there too, and those are just out here being cold stratified and then can be planted in the spring. We still got some little elderberry cuttings, and I got the greenhouse open, and that's a beautiful sight because I haven't been able to open it all the way this far. I've only been able to open it halfway and have to like sneak in there. So definitely got to figure out a better door situation for the future. But oh, I still got these tomato seeds here too. Or these tomatoes that I grew, that I saved, and I didn't extract their seeds yet. So hopefully to spread those out for some tomatoes from my locally adapted seed. I also saved seed off of those in packets inside that I'm going to grow out as well. But so here's my winter growing fails. I'll link to the other video here, but basically I had intended for this row right here to be a whole bunch of pak choi, lettuce, but I started them inside, so they went from warm to cold, and I really should have just started them in the high tunnel so they could have got slowly adapted to the cold, and they wouldn't have been ready now, but at least there would have been something growing. So they were in warm, brought them out to cold, they didn't really get hardened off. It's just like when you have to harden off your warm weather crops. Well, it was reversed with the cold. Instead of taking warm weather crops from a warm scenario out to where it's still kind of cold, it was taking cold crops scenario that were being grown in warm out to a cold crop scenario. So it wasn't really working. I know it kind of just, anyways. So there's also a lot of nutrient lockup in here too because of all the carbon, aka leaves and wood chips and undecomposed food scraps. So stuff like survived, like, you know, this kale, it turned really purple. You can see like the root system has literally turned like white. So if it's still alive, I don't know, but we may get regrowth, resprout off of that. And you can see these kales are still alive, so that will be good for saving seed and early spring greens. But my concern is that they're not really going to grow all too much because it's just straight wood chips, and that needs to break down a little bit. So maybe sow some, I have some sugar snap peas. That'll be like a nice early spring crop. They'll crawl up the sides because they're like get to 10 feet tall, and then that'll be a nice early spring crop that'll help put some nitrogen in and equal out that carbon to nitrogen ratio. It'll help start breaking down things, and then can transplant in the peppers, eggplants, and maybe cucumbers. But it's still cool that even though these seeds that didn't survive, I got 40 seconds, didn't survive, these little transplants of kale, mustards, spinach, and lettuce, and cilantro all did survive, and they will start to put on new growth here soon. It's just going to be slow. But even if they don't put on new growth because of the nutrient lockup, we will have locally adapted seed that already went through the 2023 growing season, and I can keep on growing it out for the years to come and distribute it, maybe even to other people for a source of support for the farm. It's One Love Wholeness. See you on the next one.